3 months before the arrival of the Frost Shepherd, the bard Lem waited patiently at the place he'd promised to meet his boyfriend, the baker Emmanuel. In the old world of Hyron, it was rare that Lem would be the one left waiting. He was notoriously distractible, and despite his best efforts to remain disentangled from causes, he always seemed to find himself caught up in some grand adventure or political ploy. Here in the Rhizome, though, it was Emmanuel who found himself pulled to and fro by the demands of others. Perhaps it was the baker's easy demeanor and straightforward confidence which made him easy to call upon in new chaotic circumstances. Or maybe it was simply that there were more mouths to feed than ever, and his knack for making more and more delicious from less had made him a bit of a folk hero in the community. Regardless, he was late. And why had he chosen this place anyway, Lem wondered. It had been hell to get here, a grasshopper to the third branch, a vine ladder through the hollow trunk. Certainly there were better views than this. And then Lem saw it, a small brick, made from an old but familiar sort of stone, the sort of which that was only used in one city that Lem had ever been to, Naker. It's not much, but...
Well, did it just show up?
One of the patrols found it and told me. They said they'd never seen anything like it before, the marble. And I said, oh, sounds like home.
And it is.
And it is.
Well, welcome home, Emmanuel. How do you feel?
Still homesick.
Yeah.
I look out there and I wonder, for all of the Nakers that must exist here in this mess, are any of them mine?
Do you think yours was missing a particular slab of marble with, is this a mason's mark?
By the time we left, it was missing many blocks of marble.
Yeah, the Ordanon cannons,
Yeah, they made a mess.
You think about it a lot, don't you?
Less and less. Less and less. Here. A cigarette. For old times. Where were we? Do we...
Autumn 5 clubs. 5.
Is Allie, this is your
I think
card,
it was
right?
Allie's,
that was me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Do we? Is there anything that we need to go over? You know.
We're mid-season, so
We're
we don't
mid-season.
really know what to do.
But here's
bugs.
y'all just figured out bug rodeos.
Mm-hmm.
There's using your bug nights, your bug
That
travelers.
was 2 turns ago.
And it's really working for everyone.
I think
Out
if
of contempt tokens. We have some more contempt tokens?
are you out?
Oh, no,
took a
never
bunch
mind.
of there's 10.
I just wasn't zoomed out far enough.
Okay. It's like, wait, I made a bunch of new ones. So the bugs everywhere. 2 weeks ago, everyone started riding bugs around. Actually, I bet that took place over the course of, like, months, right? I guess no, because you ended it
There
early.
was a card that that supercharged it.
That
Yeah.
was so silly.
Yeah,
What a good
we added
game.
3, but then finished it after the first 1 tick.
This is going to take us a whole season. This is going to take us 9 weeks. And then, like, wait, actually, let's just all ride bugs.
Everyone got super into it, as I believe what happened fictionally. Everyone was just like, no.
Yes.
Bugs now.
Bugs now?
Bugs
I think
now.
I think my headcanon is that, like, the spoon seller or something used to be, like, a rodeo champ, but was, like, living in secret shame. Because there's just, like, my skill set doesn't apply to this world. It hasn't applied in a long time. In 10 years, my skill set hasn't applied. And then they hear, like, oh, there's a bug rodeo school. And they're like, I gotta put the hat on.
Right.
I gotta go.
My planet needs me.
The real Lethal Weapon vibe.
God.
Oh, we went
GTA
different
meme.
directions.
How about this? Current projects. Current project dice. Throndir's looking for Red Jack. There are 5 more ticks to go on that. Hadrian, Hella, maybe Ephraim. I don't remember if Ephraim was involved in any way, and a little bit of Lem. Lem has books and understands processes. Building a new church, creating a new belief system. Lem also actually very busy with Galenica right now. as he talks to them about the maybe reconfiguring the world or not doing that. Galenica is visiting for 2 more weeks, and then there is an ongoing trip to Velis. I forget who's in charge of this one. I forget who.
Ephraim? Andy, were you heading out to Velis?
Oh yeah, I restarted that
That clock.
that clock. Yeah, it was
Okay,
the
I
same.
was gonna-
Yeah.
Make
With
sure.
the combined with Bug Army.
Right. All right. So, Allie, can you read us the card?
Yeah, so I have the 5 of Autumn. And my options are: the parish arrives. Who are they? Why have they chosen your community? And for what? Or a small gang of marauders is making its way through local terrain. How many are there? What weapons do they carry? Yeah.
So, what do you think?
I'm still really torn on this card because it's a really interesting one to have in this moment, I think.
Yeah.
Our community is definitely on an upswing, I think.
Yeah.
We just had all of those bugs. We all came together to like do a thing. And I think like fictionally it makes sense that we would like be attractive to people again in
Yeah.
the way that we were like in spring. Especially when like, you know, lost communities spread across the map are still a thing. But I don't know if that's like too soft, especially when we like being able to defend ourselves is a big maybe.
Right.
Still.
Right.
Um
Right, we should note your abundant resources right now are sunlight and maps. Your scarce resources are knowledge and population. And then somewhere in the middle is flight, community, safety, good tools, food and water, and roads and paths. So lots of progress has been made, but the cup doesn't run over, you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to like introduce violence right now. Even though the Grey Duke stuff has just been kind of off screen for a little bit, I don't know with that society if they would use this as an opportunity to be like, hey, we're coming back.
I don't have sole authorship over anything
No,
on the
I know,
screen,
but-
right? I know what you're saying. It depends, right? Like one, it could be them. If you wanted to do a small gang of marauders, it could be somebody else. They aren't the only people with weapons in this world, and especially not the only people who maybe thought, hey, we should take advantage of the chaos to become marauders, to enact violence. But I also would be curious what the parish is in your mind. So I don't have a horse in this race. Keith notes like, yeah, the archive gangs are out there still for sure. That's a thing. The Toy Boys, etc.
Yeah, boy.
God, I thought of somebody else recently, like the remnants of Ordena. You know what I mean? Like there's still plenty of people out there who we have seen be violent. But I think that's secondary to whether or not you, the player and collaborator, want to introduce violence right in this moment, Though, of course, the next card could be something that's like an army marches in. But, that would be a distinct thing.
Yeah, exactly. No, I guess it's just like, what's the thing that I want to, if the society is coming together and like being able to make progress, is the thing that I want to do, have people recognize that in a good way or a bad way.
Yeah.
It's a really big choice to make. I also have been curious about like what's going on with Ordena though.
Yeah.
Because I mean, kind of through this whole game, I've just been like, the map got fucked up. We haven't even left this like weird, this like V of tree that we're on.
Right, this one chunk. Yeah.
I think I'm going to go with the parish arrives. Just because, I think that like the forward motion here before we get to winter is pretty good, and we're like, we're doing all right.
Mm-hmm. So who are they? Why have they chosen our community, and what for?
I don't know. I mean, like, I think that Hella being like, I'm willing to be a spiritual leader in this place, and then being like, see ya, there's trees now, and I just haven't looked into it.
Yeah. God.
Was a little bit, it was irresponsible is what I'll say.
Uh-huh. Things have happened.
Right.
Now
yeah,
it's been 10 months or whatever, so maybe things should
it's
happen
been less
a different
than
way.
a year, so it's not like
Right.
outrageous.
Right.
But it's But I especially in framing this as a parish, it's like, yeah, that's what that is.
Mhm.
That's what the responsibility of that action is. And it's also like, hey, you guys have food? You guys made a map? What do you? How do you do that? But then again, I guess the Anchor sort of are fine in the. They're not like the Alcyon.
In what way?
Well, because they're like so much more mechanic, and also weren't they made out of or done in steel? So
Yeah.
like
Totally.
they're probably breaking down in a way that like traditional Paladin aren't, right?
There's definitely different challenges for sure. I think like Alcyon probably is, and we talked about this during the Alcyon arc, that part of the reason that the more reactionary parts of that community didn't want to bring them in was because of the fact that they didn't necessarily have techniques yet to take care of all of the different types of Anchor. They'd already taken most of the Anchor, but then it was the Aduna Fell Anchor, who specifically looked like they may have had even different needs than regular Anchor or than standard, equipment Anchor. But yeah, I think even there is a difference, and you're probably right that they resisted the spring just the same, right? Like, so the spring, poison plants still weren't affecting them or whatever. But I can imagine that you think about something like them as being more mechanical and requiring a more not practiced, but like finer degrees of maintenance, tightening screws and applying oils, and not just kind of like the sort of polishing work that you might imagine, goes on with the regular, with the old school Paladin. So yeah, I think that's probably fair.
Okay.
I don't want to
Yeah.
paint the picture of them as being incapable. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No.
But
I think that
do
like
think you're
there's
right.
yeah, I mean I think there's definitely like a version of this world where it's like we used to have access to a bunch of like fine grapes that we could like refine into oil, and now we don't. And like I think especially like why have they chosen your community and for what? Like again, I think that this card works in this moment because our community does look really efficient,
Yeah.
at least compared to other ones. And also just like being like, do you have these things? And if you don't, since you have other resources, can you point us to where we can find these things that we need for ourselves?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So how many is it? How many is this, like a couple dozen people? Is this 100 people? Is it 1,000? Like how many is it?
I think it's maybe like a convoy of like 12.
Okay.
But they've come from, they've like essentially dropped the rice behind them, but they've come from a really long way. I think they're probably like off screen back where this maybe followed
like
the
down,
Weaver arm.
If you if you go east or whatever down that arm,
Right,
yeah,
right.
sure.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Do you want to add them or something to the map, or
Yeah.
figure out something there? I will tick these clocks. Velas goes up to 3. Let me make that actually bigger. Velas goes up to 3. Galenica visit on its last tick now. Lem, you've spent your first week with Galenica. New church continues to be built. Throndu, you keep looking for Red Jack. Nothing completes. What is your action for the week?
I think that I should start a project.
Okay.
Damn, what do we need right now?
Good question.
Yeah, this is a thing that I've been kind of like considering doing, but haven't found a right moment for. And I think of like Hella's defining action of like being a good person was like taking a census.
Yeah.
As like societies are spread out, and as that is coming more and more clear, especially with like new arrivals from people she's familiar with and has a responsibility to like take care of, there's a part of her that's like, we should, we have all of these people who are going out making maps, we should like have them kind of like seek out other people deliberately instead of like seeking out cool fields of grass or places where we can mine materials or whatever. So
Yeah, I like that idea.
yeah.
How long do you think that's going to take?
That's probably an 8-step.
Yeah.
Because
is that,
it's like,
is it off
Would it
map?
shorten it if Adair helped? Like, coordinate?
I mean, Adair's not doing anything else right now, right? So,
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
Yeah.
oh sure, yeah.
Yeah. What do you do? That is 6?
Yeah.
If this is like Hella and Adair plus all of the Adair map makers kind of doing a follow-up
All
census.
the top
or like
graduates,
Yeah. I'm going to put this over here, like in the middle of the tree to the
Okay,
east.
cool.
I'm writing Census 2.0, but I know it's more than that. I know it's also like finding new people and looking into cultures and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
All right, good turn. There are, just so people know, 3 more cards in autumn.
Thank God, no pressure on me to pull a summer card yet.
Ooh, all right, this is an interesting one. Either, I got the 10 of autumn. Harvest is here and plentiful, add in abundance. Or, cold autumn winds drive out your enemies. Remove a threatening force from the map and the area. I had a good idea related to removing the Grey Duke last week. Or last time we recorded, whenever that was, 3 days ago. That was tied to something already happening or something else on the map. But now I need to relook at the map and see if that idea is still good.
Red Jack murdered the Grey Duke.
That's it.
That's where he went.
Famed assassin Red Jack.
I mean,
The group down here, this is just still the Grey Duke's army, right? We just didn't.
In the bottom,
delete
I
them
didn't
when we
delete
made the
them.
camps.
Yeah, totally. Exactly that.
who's that
The
little
thing-
gray man?
That's my.
That's a census taker.
I'm trying to figure out what redundant
think-
robots look like, and it's a gray band
Oh.
with like
Oh,
some
that's
cool
the
red
anchor.
lines.
Gotcha. Sure. Oh, they're smiling.
Yeah.
That's good. It does make it look like they're surfing on this rain, which is very funny to me.
You know, that's sick, is what it is.
Rain. Oh, that's what the.
The big orange swipes are rain.
Pollen hail
Mhm.
is. Oh, right.
No,
Sorry,
that's-
the orange swipes. Yeah.
The
Okay.
orange swipes are the hurricane. It's pollen hurricane, but I love the phrasing of cold autumn winds drive out your enemies because it is not a big war, right? There isn't a huge skirmish, but also in a world of magic, cold autumn winds can be anything, you know? There's a degree to which it feels like nature is pushing back on them, but also in a world where multiple people at this table have weird nature powers, it is not outside of the realm of possibility that, like, there is some divine or spiritual connection or magical connection here. Though I do also like the breadth of harvest here is abundant, harvest is here and plentiful, and it leaves open the Grey Duke as a potential threat still. Does the community need to remove a threat? In some ways, removing the threat would also give an abundance, right? Because we've said that safety would happen if the Grey Duke was taken care of. I'm really mad at myself for not remembering what I had in mind for a unique, weird... I'm looking at some notes really quick.
What if we all just react like you did some really cool twist, and then if you remember it later, you can just put it in?
No, because it wasn't that cool. It wasn't that. It wasn't.
I can turn it down. I can just. That's interesting.
There you go. Thank you. I appreciate that. No, it wasn't. It wasn't like a twist. It was just like. It was just cool. It was just like a cool thing from something that we hadn't seen in a while, or connected to a thing we hadn't seen in a while. But now I don't remember what it was, and so I feel bad.
Was it bugs?
It wasn't Bug.
Was it Bunny? Are they
wasn't-
scared of bunnies?
No, because we're feeding on the bunnies to the spider now.
All of the bunnies. We'd run out of bunnies.
Well, enough bunnies.
Bunnies reproduce very rapidly, and spiders don't eat that much.
Do they not eat that much? I guess it's the whole thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to. I think I'm actually going to.
Alligators, they're cold-blooded.
Huh. Okay. I think I'm going to choose harvest here is plentiful. Add an abundance. And the reason for that is I like the direction Allie started in the last turn, which is that this place is growing in in stability and is looking more and more attractive, which is a blessing and a curse. And I'd like to keep that blessing and a curse factor going.
You know what else helped this harvest just be so good?
What's that?
This great Farmer's Almanac.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did it? Is that what it was? Well, so harvest is really broad. I could introduce a completely new abundance. I don't have to move something. It doesn't have to be the population becomes abundant or that food and water does. Though we do have we do have the almanac, and we also have those big praying mantis tractors now, or not tractors, whatever. What would they be? I guess I don't think they're plows, right? They're like a harvest.
Harrows.
Yeah, like a combine harvester or something?
Combine harvester.
It's a combination between a harvester and a bug.
Yeah.
I love Half-Life 2.
I think it's something completely new. And it is tied to the return of Benjamin and Blue Jay. And it is an abundance of magic. They went out looking for magic. In Blue Jay's mind, hopefully maybe something that could reconnect Red Jack to his past selves. In Benjamin's mind, it was just, hey, the old magic is still fading. Is there some new string, some new, in the worlds of, in the kind of, in the pattern magic sense, is there a new pattern to draw on? Is there a new source? Is there a new school of magic that we can find? And I think fairly early on, Benjamin found it, partially through looking at materials that they brought, that the two of them brought with them, looking at old books, but also just through like experimenting out in the woods, out on the trails, through talking to like hedge wizards and traveling tricksters and people who did other types of magic. And Benjamin put together a new type of magic. But one, it is a new type of magic, which means it is not the silver bullet that Blue Jay, in their heart of hearts, probably knew they would not find, but still wished they would find. And two, Benjamin kept this from them. Benjamin sat on this knowledge for longer because he was not ready to go home yet. And so part of that fight was, I can't believe that that this isn't just a thing you're like still trying to figure out, that you actually figured it out pretty early on, and that we didn't go back and tell people immediately. And I think as a way of beginning to try to repair the trust between the two of them, Benjamin starts to try to teach other people, and like his mom before him, becomes a mentor and teacher to young students, and begins to kind of take on the mantle of magic teacher, working with Sunder, working with a handful of other mages still here, and introduces a new type of magic. And I don't know if I have a good name for it yet, but it is something that is, I want it to feel distinct in the doing. He is not the wizard anymore. He is not doing like the sort of component style magic that Phantasmo did. He is not doing divine magic the way a cleric would. He's not like drawing on a divine source. I think and he's not doing like druidic magic the way you do, Pharaoh, either, nor pattern magic. Does anyone have good ideas for types of magic that coincide with this kind of the rhizome, with what the world is now, this idea of just like the ever-growing spring that doesn't just come back to nature magic? I know it's a big ask.
Object-oriented in a kind of...
I think so.
In a kind of way, in that it's like, not object-oriented in the way that the pattern is, but more like, the pattern, right, is about like, oh, how do we as living, as like orc entities within the world intersect with objects.
Right.
And I wonder if this is a kind of magic that is about the objects themselves. I'm trying to think of the rhizome as this remarkable object that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And is it like a way of interacting or taking care of that, the processes by which that is cultivated.
Is it
But as
about-
soon as we step towards like cultivation, we step away from the object-oriented vibe of it.
Right, because you end up going back towards what is effectively manipulating the natural, or like whatever there, right? Maybe it's I'm thinking about something like still in that realm of like object oriented. Things have, is it about pulling on already extant properties of the world somehow? Fire's impulses to consume,
Gravity,
gravity,
things
fall
sometimes.
Right? Right. Well, they gravity physics happens, right? Like if you drop something in a place where there is gravity, it's going to fall.
Water soaks things.
Right.
Is this drawing on like the language of the original spring that we encountered that was just like a grow, like the
Right. That's the same way that had that impulse.
Applying that to other
much
things,
more
that was
broadly, right? And about is that? Go ahead.
So I was gonna say there's a principle in homeopathic medicine, but it's the principle that like a lot of medieval medicine was based off of, which is the idea of like curing like. So a plant that causes a rash can be used to treat rashes if you use it in a smaller amount, or like a plant that looks like I can't remember the exact, a plant that like looks like a liver. That doesn't make sense. It wouldn't be a plant that looks like a liver, but a plant that looks like a thing can be used to treat. Like a plant that looks like a heart can be used to treat like a heart problem or a tumor or things like that. There might be something to that idea.
Yeah, I don't want it to be alchemy. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be. He went out in the world and found the right leaves because it's a leaf world now. I want it to hit on this feeling of like, okay, do you know what I think it actually is? Here's where it is. It is like the opposite of pattern magic. Pattern magic is we can get anything we want if only we arrange things the right way. I think this is a world in which you can literally never arrange things the right way. This is the thing we didn't come back to talk about, but do you remember... We've talked about this with pattern magic before, that the reason pattern magic started failing and getting weirder was Samuel was dying, and so the pattern became unpredictable. Because it used to be that it was locked. It was locked to Samuel as its core. Well, now the world literally changes constantly. There's a new offshoot, a new branch, a new sprout constantly in such a way that there is no locked pattern anymore. And so Benjamin's new school of magic is like a dare reaching into the bag of holding. What's in there? Okay, he can open up a moment of possibility and cause an effect, but he doesn't get to pick what the pool of effects are. It's almost like a card building game or deck building game or a card game where you something in Hearthstone where you play the card that's like, all right, you're going to get a random card added to your hand.
It's roguelike scrolls and potions in roguelikes, right? Where it's like red potion.
I got this red potion.
Okay.
I have an idea, and he can start to build. He can build towards, not proficiency, but like probability, maybe. Where it's like, okay, I'm pretty sure that with this incantation or drawing from this part of the rhizome, I can produce some effect. I can pull the light from this part of the rhizome that is normally. There's 30 suns there, and so it's always light. But maybe it's not always light. Maybe for whatever reason, this day it is not.
To go with a bag of holding metaphor, is it then like, is learning to use this magic like learning that when you reach into that bag, you don't just pull out the first thing that your hand lands on? Like, you need to take a minute to be like, does this feel kind of like a thing that would be good?
I'm looking for a candlestick.
Is this squishy? Is this biting me? What is this?
Yes, I think that's totally
game
it.
Where you're reaching in and it's they say it's brains, but it's actually spaghetti.
It's totally that, right?
Grapes and eyeballs.
And also, how do you make sure it is not a jaw? How do you make sure it's not a spike?
So this is the thing, right? Where it's like, I wonder if an argument that Benjamin made to Blue Jay was, look, I just wanted to make sure I had time to get it right before we got home. And Blue Jay just doesn't buy it for whatever reason. In part because they're like, oh, you just want this. You want to spend time with this yourself.
Right. Yeah, no, I like this a lot. And
Look, I don't do magic, but it does sound like developing this would be terrible.
yeah, no doubt. But I think Blue Jay's point is like, right, so we go to where it's safe, where we're surrounded by people.
We tell Sunder.
Right, we tell Sunder Hamilton about this. I think Sunder hates this, or like doesn't hate it, but doesn't take to it. It's the
she's
opposite
a
of old
semiotician,
magic.
right?
She's a semiotician and a wizard, or not a wizard, but a mage. And both of those things are so much about organization and about study and about data and about like repetition and preparation.
yeah.
And this is literally like, yes, there is a degree. This is like affective magic, right? Like this is like, okay, what does this feel like in this
box
moment?
magic.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. Like, what do you, I love it. It's really good. But Sunder doesn't know what to do with it, you know? And of course, at the same time, Sunder has always done it. It's just that she can't recognize that when she casts Fireball 2 different times, it takes on 2 different characters based on things like where her heart is at and who she's firing it at. Because that is the skill set is to ignore the biases and emotional content of a spell. It's to shave all that off so that it's controlled. Whereas this is about like leaning into it and recognizing what is at stake, what the potentials are, what you feel like, all of that mix of stuff, and kind of mastering it, not as in like controlling it and limiting it, but in recognizing it and kind of leaning into it. I think I do like the idea of like affective magic, meaning partially the affect and the kind of like pre-literal, pre-language mood and tone and emotional state, like very broadly of the person doing it, but also the affect of the world, because what you're pulling on is the attitudes and preferences of spring, or of the second spring, of the rhizome. You're pulling from the local gravity. You're pulling from the fact that like the pollen wants to be spread on the wind. You're pulling on all of these kind of innate or historical like preferences of the world and playing with them a little bit. And I think also that sense of you're playing, you're never mastering, you're always playing, because tomorrow you could wake up and the techniques you believed, the thing that was like, I always know how to separate spaghetti from brains is like, oh wait, like there's a new type of brain in the world tomorrow that actually feels even more like spaghetti. So I like this a lot. And so the abundance is magic. And the reason it's abundant isn't because there's a ton of it. It's because there's any of it. It's because old magic is dying. And so to have a new type is like a very big thing. So I've added magic to the board.
I just want to underline
Whoops.
that a thing you said is there's a new type of brain in the world that feels more like spaghetti.
Why wouldn't there be?
I know. I just wanted to
Let
make
people
sure
know,
that
yeah.
didn't get lost.
No, I get you. All right.
This 8 Mile sequel is a lot.
New church advances. Throndir and they're looking for Red Jack advances. Census 2.0 advances. Lemon Galenica advances. Velostrip completes and Galenica completes. Let's start with Velostrip.
Yeah. So, I think this looks pretty simple once we've got, like, the bugs taken care of. Like, now that we've got bugs, it's kind of a lot easier to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually kind of think that part of this clock was, like, getting a little acclimated to the new Velis, because it's different. Like,
interesting, yeah.
Like, you recognize some things, and then it's like other things are completely foreign to you, right? So there's that, and then there's also like getting in touch with people who are ostensibly the leaders there and trying to be like, hey, we've got this. You might not be as receptive to bugs as us, but we have this cool gondola technology. Have we told you about that? And, like, just hoping to set up a thing where people from Velis can come to the university and vice versa.
Cool. So you think that there is, like, an additional is there do y'all start to build a big gun? I mean, that would be a different project, right?
That would be a different project,
That'd be a different project. But you've opened the door at the very least.
Exactly.
To that possibility. That makes sense. Cool. And we'll see where it goes from there. Galenica's visit comes to an end. I think, so the thing that's interesting here is, Lem, you're in the middle of this visit with them, or this set of conversations. What is it exactly?
Like a summit?
Yeah. Is Lem aware enough to know that it's coming to an end, or is it just like one day they finish their summit and they say, like, they tell you, like, do they ask, like, will you be joining me on my...
Yes, I think that's absolutely what it is. I think it's the vibe of signing up for one thing but not realizing that you've actually signed. It's like when you think you've signed up for a week's trial of something and you've actually signed up for 6 months.
Yeah.
Except this is like going with Galenica.
Yeah.
I think that they're like, I'm excited to continue this tomorrow, and Lem's like, you're leaving tomorrow. And Galenica's like, indeed.
Yeah. Of course. And there's still more to discuss. I think for those 2 weeks, what you saw were, like, in the morning, Galenica would stand out in the quad and would speak to people as they passed by, or people would come to them. They would take lunch outside of the university, and then every day would travel to a different community nearby within walking distance, where they would set up like a sort of like temporary
democracy stand.
A democracy stand, yeah, where people could come up and speak to them. And then, like, the meals were yours, basically, right? The meals became moments. And then I think maybe, like, in the evening, a conversation. That was, like, partially a debrief of the day. They've done a lot of asking you what you thought when the farmer said that, like, if we could remake the world, we should do it where there's more soil, you know? And be like, well, what do you think, Lem? If I remake the world, how much soil should there be? And it is that sort of question. It is always this very particular material, concrete type of question that is like an absurd, almost like to the point that it's a koan. How much soil should be in the world? Like, enough, you know?
Right. How deep should the sea be?
Right. How deep should the sea be? How many feet? Right. How often should it rain? How much pollen should be in the rain?
Just everyone sneezing, wiping tears from their eyes. None.
Right. None. I see. So the pollen shouldn't be able to be spread through water or rain then. Right. Like, that is the degree to which they are.
Do they keep notes? Are they is this going in their head, or are they carrying a document?
This is going in their head. They are not an archivist, right? They are a god. And so I think that there should be something that feels very alien about this. And then every now and then, the turn, which is all of the weird material questions, turn and reveal to you as you're going through this process, that they make some incredible insight as to what people actually are asking for, even though they've told them they've been told by the people that they've been told by the people, we want it so that there's no pollen in the rain, right? And then between that and how much soil should there be and how deep should the oceans be and blah, 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 they say something like, what they really need is soil that lasts more than one season, or, or crops that don't, drain all of the nutrients in the soil as quickly as they do in this world, or something like that, right?
Right.
And it's hard to tell the difference between when this is analysis and when this is taking an idea from someone who has prayed to them and been like, yes, this matches up. I think it's a very strange thing. Also, I think they leave without giving anyone any goodbyes. There's no farewell to this. And without being like, all right, I've made a decision.
There's no debrief.
No, there's a debrief with you because you have decided to attend to them. I'm also curious about this, Lem. Do you tell Emmanuel you're leaving? Like, what's that look like? They are only
Yeah.
going to Alcyon. That is where they are going next. So it is not like you're leaving the map quite yet.
I think that there's 2 stages of debrief, right? Which
Yeah.
is that Lem immediately goes home, and Lem has been keeping notes.
Okay.
And just sits down with Emmanuel and talks about what happened that day or on that meeting or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think in part this is useful because it gives some outlet to the community. It goes through the cook. It goes through the camp cook.
Right.
What has happened, and that filters out. But from Lem's perspective, it lets Lem work over in his head the stuff he's been told as he finds himself retelling it to Emmanuel.
Right.
And it also gives him an outlet to... I think Lem is afraid of Galenica. Not actively, but in the sense that this is a very powerful person who is carrying a very dangerous key.
Right.
But I think in speaking to Emmanuel, it lets Lem just be like, oh my god, and then they said this? They just asked me how deep the sea should be?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Lem leaves for Alcyon with a kind of two-handed promise. The first hand being it's over there. It's a gondola ride away. And the second thing being that Lem is acting as an advocate for Lem and Emmanuel to Galenica.
Right. Their worldview.
Not just their worldview, but their continued existence and proximity.
Mm.
You know, Lem is not prepared to let Galenica reconfigure Lem and Emmanuel.
Right. And that... What do those conversations look like? Is that... Like, how do you insist on that?
To whom? To Galenica?
To Galenica. Or is this just about raising certain topics? Is this about directing conversation? Is this about providing counterexample? What's it look like to advocate for yourself to a god in the way that Lem would do that? I mean, I think, off mic, you and I briefly talked about the fact that, this is not 1415.
No, the way I've been thinking about it is, when they said they should have sent a poet?
Yeah.
What if instead they said, fuck, we sent a poet?
Right. Yes. We needed scientists.
That is, I think, Lem talking to Galenica. But I think that the ways in which it is practical come from a sort of experiential approach, right? Which has always been the archivist's whole vibe, right? Like, the majority of the archive wasn't being used, but the bits that were being used very actively. And so I think the questions Lem asks are like stuff that we haven't really talked about with reconfiguration, which is like, how do you do it?
Right.
What does it feel like to do? Does your perspective shift, like, in a very practical sense when you reconfigure?
Right.
How much control do you have on the macro and on the micro scale? Just like these specific, like over and over again, the concerns that Lem is hearing from people speaking to Galenica are like, my daughter was killed by the Verdant.
Right.
Or like, my entire farm fell 300 feet into what I think is a lake. I can't see it. And so I think that the concerns that Lem is bringing to Galenica from his perspective are like, all right, so how much control are you going to have over what you make if you make it?
Right. What do you think those answers look like?
You can't just Galenica this to me, Austin.
I could.
You can't just...
I think
just say, well, how deep is the ocean?
I think part of the thing is the frustration is that I think that there might be a limit on communicability of this, right? Because I think their response to you, like, what does this feel like, is nothing that you've ever felt. There is no way for me to describe it to you. Like, the experience of Galenica isn't a poet either, right? Or isn't a poet in the sense. Galenica is a very particular of the gods. Samant would have been able to just really paint you a good word picture.
Sure.
You know, would have just lavished. Just oh my god, I love to give you the details of what reconfiguration feels like. Even Samathes would have been able to like give you a cold but effective analogy.
Yes.
Galenica is like very much let me show you. You know, Galenica is like, oh yeah, here, I can do something.
Do they promptly reconfigure something?
Yeah,
for you?
I think that they like reach out a hand for you to like touch, and then with their other, they gesture at a candle in the room, and turn it slowly to stone, but leave the flame lit. And they've made in this candle a thing that will burn rock, stone, or mineral.
And to be clear, Lev is terrified. This is
totally.
This is like the most, medieval person sees a miracle experience.
Yes.
This is Lem watching magic performed on a scale that... I mean, the last time he saw magic performed on this scale was when his home was destroyed by lightning.
Right. I think they do it slowly. So, like, I think they do it quickly. They show you
scary.
this. And then, so they do it, and it's like, oh, wow, that's really scary. And then they turn it, they like slow it down, they begin to undo it, and I think that the thing that they try to communicate there is the scale at which macro reconfiguration happens, the time, the length, the fact that you do feel each little bit as a pinprick that runs down your spine. And that's not how they feel it. They don't necessarily feel it that way. They're giving you how you would feel it if you were doing it. You know what I mean? They don't have a spinal cord that connects to their nerves in that same way. But what is familiar, or what is still the same, is this sense of a huge array of tiny, distinct moments. A huge like a line of them, so rapid, like hearing a metal drummer hitting the double bass. Where you're like, wow, those are distinct beats, but it's overwhelming. Like, yes, they're going like, but like, 16th notes or whatever, and they're so fast that you can still pull them out. You could say that was 16 double bass hits in a single measure or whatever, but like, wow, that's fast. It's overwhelming. Janine notes that. Go ahead.
Oh. Is it a conscious experience for them?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
When we make a podcast, we are conscious during the process of it, right?
Yeah.
But when I sleep, I am not. Like,
this is intellectual.
As far as Galenica is concerned, they are conscious during an entire reconfigure. If they were to reconfigure everything, they would be aware as they were doing it.
There are things...
You're saying they're doing each thing intentionally and actively, and not as like a reflexive...
There are things that gain momentum, is what they tell you with this question. Like a rock falling down a hill, right? When Samathes made the Cobbins, he was very attentive until he didn't need to be. Until they had the momentum to become a culture of alchemists and engineers. But he had to make sure that they had the right materials nearby. He had to make sure that they were insulated from nearby warring cultures. He had to perform literal miracles that would prevent them from themselves becoming a culture of kind of like warlike folks. And so that's for culture. And it's the same, they tell you, for... I would do the same if I wanted to make a world of rock on fire. There is attentiveness where there needs be attentiveness. And there is a looseness. My kin, in fact, have different affections for the degree of looseness. Severia always took great joy in seeing how things turned out. Samathes held tightly.
What about you?
It depends on the work at hand. And my mood. and the shape and style of the strata or lamina I build. Some deserve to grow on their own with minimal interference, and others require a close touch, like a bird with a broken wing.
And we get just like a camera shot of Lem's face listening. And then Lem says, they said some stuff deserves other stuff, like a broken wing. And we're in the room with Emmanuel, and Emmanuel is just like sitting on the bed, just going like what?
Oh, I don't even know what that means. Yeah.
It depends on their mood. They said it depends on their mood. Like there's not some kind of a plan here?
I think Emmanuel's happy to support you through this, but I think there's a night where he's like, you will not change the mind of a god. I appreciate that. I do not want to see the world changed again. But if they will this...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I only say this because if they do, we should focus on living through it and not... I will not see you beat yourself up over another thing.
There are so many things to beat myself up over.
And this one would not be your fault. It would be the fault of the god who said some things deserve a broken wing.
Huh. I mean, that's not exactly what they said, but I mean, the sentiment is there.
All right. Still my turn, right? Time to introduce a project, hold a discussion, or discover something new. I actually think that we discover something new, and it is on the way, actually, Lem, that you discover it, on the way to Alcyon. There is, as you kind of begin down... Are you going by gondola? How are you traveling?
How is Galenica traveling?
I think gondola. I think they're curious about it.
I can't picture them on a bug.
Yeah.
I mean, I can picture them on a bug, but I don't know if they would deign to, like, engage in that way at this time.
Yeah. As you go down the gondola, you can look off into that canyon, and there is there is something filling it. I think that it's like a strange, like, blue-black water begins to fill it from, like, a spring somewhere inside has opened, and is filling it pretty rapidly. It's not just a river. It is like a sea spilling out into it. And at first, I'm sure that's like, did the stoneworks? How am I being chased by open water?
Or even it's just like every time we see blue-black stuff, it's just like, fuck, the heat in the dark.
Well, yeah, so it is different than that. It is more blue-black like the Atlantic Ocean than it is blue-black like the heat in the dark.
Awful nothingness.
Yeah, totally. But I think Galenica does say to you... I think there's a moment where they just go, interesting. I did not expect, of course. It is called the Desolate Sea. Do you ask about it, or do you just sit with, the Desolate Sea?
I think that, I think Lem is exhausted.
Uh-huh.
And I think he just says, what's that?
Something very old that was once contained on a strata far below from when I warred with the others.
Oh.
It is the absence of life.
Oh. Okay.
And it is what it sounds like. There was some time there where Galenica, Severius, Samathes, and even some old Ward, and I've mentioned this before, but were whole lamina, whole strata.
Just battlegrounds, right?
Battlegrounds, and eventually just desolate, right? Like they were...
Like no man's land.
Completely annihilated, obliterated in a way that is about a scale of destruction, but man-made destruction, where the ground still exists. It is not the heat and the dark, but it is the eradication of life. It is the eradication of oxygen. It is the eradication of food, right? And so this is like a toxic sea, a radioactive sea, something deeper than that, right? Because we know that I don't know what the smallest, I guess it was for a long time, Samol, right? The smallest living, there was the heat in the dark, but compressed or whatever, is the very smallest thing that exists. And so it is like something that erases things back down to, boils you away. An acid that breaks the world down. This blue-black sea. History, it turns out, is not buried anymore. And while we've seen a lot of things from the surface return, the Grey Duke is not the only thing from down there to contend with. And so that is what I've discovered this turn. Keith, it is your turn.
Cool. All right. Boy, I bet there's a lot of other really bad stuff out there.
And probably some good stuff. There was a centaur that one
Sure,
time.
yeah.
Remember, y'all saw a centaur? The people who went below. That's
yeah,
cool.
well, but like, what outweighs what? All of the really cool stuff that's buried under Lamina, or all of the like horrific warring periods, gigantic, dangerous mistakes?
And this is the argument that many people make for we should get back to the surface. We should put a big, orb around this shit and climb to the top again. All right. Keith, do you want to draw? Oh, you did draw a card.
Yeah, I just drew, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Disease spreads through the community. Choose one. You spend the week quarantining and treating the disease. Project dice are not reduced this week. Nobody knows what to do about it. Add health and fertility as a scarcity.
Then so you're choosing one of those, to be clear, right? It is not both. It is not...
Yeah.
We're not even in winter yet.
I mean, autumn's bad on its own. It just...
I get you.
The last card, it might have... the one of the options was, drive away your enemies, but the thing that was driving away your enemies was the bitter
right.
cold.
Yes, even the good thing was tinged, for sure.
Yeah. I think that we have, as a community, we have found a certain rhythm. I don't think that we're in a position to not know what to do about a disease.
What is the disease?
I mean, we mastered bug riding.
That's true.
In a
You did
week.
do that. Okay, wait. It was a month. It was 3
gonna
weeks.
take 8 weeks. Was it 3? I thought
Maybe
it
it was
one.
1. I don't remember. It's been a couple days.
Um,
People shouting bug disease. Andy says, it felt like a week. Time flies. Fuck off. Bug disease isn't bad.
I don't know.
I mean, it's terrible.
I don't know.
It's terrible.
It's like how when, certain animals carry diseases that don't bother them but bother other species.
Oh, I was reading this the other way.
I
thought
was
you were
also
saying
reading it the other way.
the
That the
bugs
bugs
get
got
sick.
the bugs were
heck
getting
no.
like when you have to
No.
quarantine a sheep that has like an infection
No.
or something.
These bugs are strong and perfect.
Yeah, nothing hurts the bugs.
What?
It's the bugs world.
There's a big spider right there. The big spider used to eat the bugs.
Well, there's a difference between bugs eating each other because of the circle of life and something hurting the bugs, Austin.
Bug diseases.
Do you think that's why the bugs were so easily tamed? Was because we got rid of their number one
It's
predator?
like the what's the thing where it's like cat poop can do something to people.
Like a
isn't
paras-
it?
There's like a
Like a-
parasite that can
Yeah.
make you love cats more.
Yeah.
I forget the name for it.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
real, 100%.
Yeah.
Well,
Is,
doesn't that,
is it
okay,
just
wait,
called
wait, wait.
toxoplasmosis? Is that
Toxoplasmosis.
yeah.
No, that'll kill you. Toxoplasmosis kills
Well,
you.
the
Wow.
one that we're talking about is no toxoplasmosis causes no obvious symptoms in adults, but it's like children and older folks. I think are more
Susceptible,
susceptible
vulnerable.
to it, and also I think children before they're born, children during pregnancy, later months of pregnancy. The thing that happens in animals is the thing. Okay, isn't it that? Are we confusing this thing with the thing that makes cats do wild shit? The thing that makes cats take a bunch of chances because it.
Wait, is
Boldness?
there something that makes cats
Yeah, cat parasite, brain control. Yeah, toxoplasma. This is it. This is it's a parasite that goes in. Yes, cat poop parasite controls minds early and permanently. This is a parasite that changes the brains of rats. Sorry, here it is. It changes them of rats.
Yeah.
It makes rats do more. It makes them attracted to cats and cat urine, and makes them like just be on one in such a way that they become easier for cats
rat
to
is
kill
just,
and
like,
eat, so that then
basically
the
the rat is
parasite
like,
Okay.
can get
I'm gonna
into the
fucking
cat.
kill that cat.
That's exactly it.
Okay, this is it. We already have this. That's why we love the.
Oh God.
We all already have bug toxoplasmosis, and we're all like, yeah, this is it. This is why we were able to do 8 weeks worth of work in 1 week, is because there's a parasite that is saying like get
This
eaten
is
by
fucking
bugs.
grim.
But we're too smart. Like we're just slightly not. It's slightly not effective enough to get us to get eaten. So instead, we just thought that we loved bugs and we tamed them. But I think that we figured out that something is off. I mean, things weren't getting done. Everybody was spending all day at the bug tracks. The only
this
people that were
really
getting any work done were the
recasts it.
people that like.
Oh, this is so fucking good.
And also, so for the last like 2 or 3 days, I'm like, oh, I hope people are all right with this whole situation where everyone decided to turn the bugs into their Flintstones dinosaur servants. But it was like, okay, they're bugs. We already have horses. It's not a big deal. But this really recasts it as something magical.
It's also like very. It's that. You know how like a lot of symbiotic stuff is actually really grim if you think about it for like a second.
Mm-hmm.
This is like,
Yeah.
wow, our community has been doing really well. We've gained a degree of confidence. We've gained a degree of ability with these bugs, and the bugs are just like, fucking hell, this is great.
Yeah, right. It makes right. Well, it's like Blue Jay and Benjamin get back, and there are these bugs everywhere, and Blue Jay is like, "Hey, what? Everyone's super cool with this giant bug being in the kitchen. The giant bug
it's
shouldn't
not
be.
like-
There's tiny bugs on the big
sitting
bug.
at the table.
But it's not like
It's sitting at the table eating oatmeal.
we're all lucid. Like this is all like.
Right? No.
You know, it's not like the community has completely fallen apart. Everyone's still doing all the stuff. It's just like, the bugs are helping.
So that's also the question: is like cat toxoplasmosis doesn't like. It's just like a thing that you get, and like if you're an adult, you're fine. But like, so that's really the question here: is like, do we all just acknowledge we have this, and it's like, well, we can't do anything about it. We're mostly fine, but for a week it's very stressful and yucky, or is it actually a problem?
It stops projects for a week. The book or the card says quarantining and treating the disease.
So, I think that there's got to be like an impulse clinic.
For bug impulses, for people's impulses with bugs.
Yeah, I think that it's about. I think that it's about like, because it's. I mean, the article said that it is permanent.
I mean, that's this version of it. We can do whatever we want.
Yeah, we can do whatever we want. I don't know. I think that it's really just like, yeah, you've got to recognize when your relationship with these bugs is not healthy. And it's just about teaching people about healthy
Boundaries?
I'm going to set up my new private practice here in Bugville.
Healthy boundaries with bugs. Boundaries. Unless we want to cure it, I'm up to that.
I kind of love the idea that it's not curable, that it's just like a thing we all have to live with now. This idea that we feel too strongly about bugs because of a bug parasite.
But does quote unquote curing it make it more like a true symbiotic relationship and not this like weird impulse?
Right. I think that this parasite is not as effective as maybe it would be on other creatures in the new spring. And so we have created a symbiotic relationship out of a parasitic one.
I can't wait for the Grey Duke to get this report of like, oh yeah, they are all brain controlled by bugs now. They started doing bug impulse training. Our spies report.
Also, have we thought about bringing some bugs to the Grey Duke's headquarters?
What? Yes. Oh my God. What if that report arrives a week after someone brought back a bug to be like, maybe we can train the bugs.
Maybe we can train the bugs. Yeah.
And like a few recruits are super excited.
That was like 4 turns ago. That was like 4 turns ago. We were talking about the Grey Duke renewing their interest in us because of the bugs.
God, I love it.
It's really good. Listen, the bugs will inherit the earth. We are
but
tiny.
It's like, again, just so I'm sure, we're not like bug zombies, right? We're still just like.
How could you tell? How could you tell, Jack? How could you tell if you're a bug zombie? There's no outside of culture. There's no outside of ideology.
I think that the valuable thing about the bug parasite is it puts into stark relief the inherent question of existence, which is how much of this is really under my control. Is it the whole world or is it me? Is it the bugs or is it me?
And the answer is
it's
probably a little bit of both. The bugs are cool. Love it.
We got the harvest in
dangerous.
so fast with those fucking praying mantises.
It's only potentially
It's worth it,
dangerous.
honestly. It's worth it. I'll say it.
I'll say what no one
We
else
get a
will.
lot out of this parasite.
I wonder how many people are just turning the episode off and being like, well, Hiron's done for me now.
They got...
I don't know. I don't think anybody. I think maybe a couple people are hitting, forward 30 a few times.
Hi to those people, sorry. We should advance.
Sorry.
Well, I've advanced all the clocks. None of them complete this turn. What's up?
I thought I thought none of them advance.
Oh, right. Fuck, none of them advance. My bad.
none of them
Fuck.
advance.
I've done...
Got too excited about
catch.
bugs.
You know what? The bugs, I felt like maybe there wasn't a disease at all. Like maybe they were just bug friends.
All the bug projects advance.
Yeah, that's it. All right, I've deleted everything. Everything. It's all gone now. Bugs forever. So no advancements on that. Pharaoh, what are you doing this turn?
I'm going to spend a contempt token. I'm going to hang out with the bugs.
Have a conversation
no
with the
contempt
bugs. We
against
can
the
all
bugs.
only respond as bugs.
Okay. Let me sort out. I have to think about my priorities.
Real quick, I've decided do you know how we do like it is called both like colloquially pattern magic, but like officially why am I blanking on a term?
Semiotics. They insist it's called semiotics.
Yeah. I think the same thing here where it is officially called affective magic, but people call it augury because of both this idea of like there's a degree to which this is a sort of divination of what is out there, what is happening, what you can pull from, what is trying to read the world and the impulses of the world, but also to augur is to dig through something, is to drill and is to like reach in, and that is also what's happening. Also, I know we don't have Latin or Greek or anything else in this world, but though ancient authors thought the word augur contained the words avis and gero, Latin for directing the birds, historical linguistic evidence actually points that the root of aug is to increase or to prosper, so it goes back to that spring impulse of growing, which I like. So yeah, it's colloquially augury, and Benjamin is the augur.
Just real quick, it's so funny how pattern magicians insist that it's semiotics, but then they also are constantly talking about the pattern and referring to the pattern.
Oh yeah.
They're funny.
Words are meaningless.
Yeah. I want to discover something new.
Okay.
You know how we're on branches?
Yeah.
I think that you know how branches like wood is not the strongest material in the whole world.
No.
I think that there's like a small community that's been fairly successful and has been thriving for a while now, and their branch got too heavy.
Oh no.
And it just sort of falls into view.
Yeah.
It just sort of bends into view.
Oh, that's great.
That's so good. Like, it just like dips
It
and
dips,
suddenly
right? Like
This is like
yeah,
a town.
like a tire swing where the rope is tied too far out on the branch.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be the scariest shit when it happens.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Y'all happen to be in the the crotch of the groin, whatever it was, of this tree, or of this particular like V-shaped intersection between two major shoots. But that's not everybody. It's not even Alcyon. Look where Alcyon is. Alcyon is just out there on the tip of this thing. Where are you going to draw this in?
I think it's gotta be like up here, like coming down.
Sure.
So that I'm not blocking like a lot of stuff.
Uh-huh. We could also do it in the far right because there's nothing over there.
That's true.
If you
yeah.
want like east of the canyon.
Well, I didn't want to block. It has to come down from above, and I didn't want to block the Weaver King.
Oh, true. That's true.
I guess I can block
Yeah, that
part
makes
of the
sense,
Weaver
though.
King. The Weaver King's huge. The Weaver King will
The
live.
Weaver King is gigantic. Yes. All right. Janine, as Keith draws, you should draw the final card of Autumn.
Oh.
No
What
big
if it's a
deal.
really
That'd be
good
great.
one?
I
I can't
hope it
remember.
is.
I can't remember.
A project just isn't working out as expected. Radically change the nature of this project.
Fuck.
Don't modify the project die. When it resolves, you'll be responsible for telling the community how it went. Or something goes foul and supplies are ruined to add a new scarcity.
That first one's
Boring.
super cool. I love that.
The first one is super cool.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is not as cool.
Sure, as a reminder to listeners, our current projects are Census 2.0, Throndir Looking for Redjack, Lemon Galenica, and New Church.
So, I partially hate this card as a person who's played the Quiet Year maybe too many times at this point, because projects are personal to a degree, but also shared to a degree that can make it feel uncomfortable. Especially certain projects where it's like, this is really...
Janine, if this is a prelude for you saying that you want to mess with Throndir Looking for Redjack, but you'd feel bad, like, don't.
It is. Especially because we already had the conversation of, we don't want to touch this project because it's good and important for Dre, but radically changing it's just it was the first thing that came to mind. It's one of those things where your first idea is the idea sometimes you love the most.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but, like, what's the idea?
Throndir isn't looking for Redjack. Redjack's looking for Throndir.
Ooh.
Oh, that's
Throndir's fucking off the... Something happened. Throndir is off the map. Redjack...
Yeah, he's not the ranger anymore.
Yeah.
He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
It's a new world, too. And Redjack... Maybe Redjack is, like, on his way back or something and sees, like, traces of Throndir, but there's just fucking, like... Maybe it's Ace. Maybe Redjack
just
finds Ace. And Ace is like, no, dude, we can't... Throndir.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
I do
Uh-huh.
too.
Great. I've changed the name of that project.
It's also fun that clock is very close to the chasm with the bad thing at the bottom of it.
It sure is.
It's all great.
That chasm is
forward to
filling
winter.
up, as a reminder.
Yeah.
So, all right, well, I'm going to advance these clocks. including Red Jack looking for Throndi. All right, they are advanced. Janine, you can... Wait, did New Church not advance?
The dot appeared and then disappeared.
It did seem like that happened.
I'm
redo
having
it.
a little
There
bit
it
of
goes.
drawing.
It's like flickering.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Yeah,
drawing happening right now at the same time, and I think that might be confusing it. Do you want me to
Alright, but when
move...
it's over, it's at 5.
Keith, do you want me to move the... Wait, undo what you just did.
Undo what I did?
Because I need to move the... You just covered up a base. Actually, you can cover it up. I'm just going to make another
Okay.
one so that we know that it's there. And I can do that.
I mean-
it's fine.
Yeah. There was never going to be anywhere where I wasn't going to cover something.
No. Totally. It's fine. So then, yeah, Janine,
So
what is your action this turn?
I want to start a project.
Okay.
Adair is currently occupied. I'm not starting this project as Adair.
Okay.
I'm starting this project as the Sapkin.
Ooh, okay.
And the Sapkin are starting to build something in the middle of the sap pool.
They're build...
They're
are they
building something.
Okay.
It's
How-
like a... It's when it's...
Here's a quick note, just as a... you shouldnjust tease anything that might not come... You shouldn't... I understand you're teasing a big weird thing.
I wasn't done.
Oh, okay. I just want to make sure there's a chance the next card ends this game.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're building it basically where the Weaver King's digit comes out of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
And it is basically at the early stages. They're building kind of like a central point.
Okay.
Like for them, they want sort of a nerve center of their own. And what they have learned of nerve centers from the university is you need a big tower.
That is what we taught them.
Yes. So they, they're basically, they are building a construction that sort of mirrors what they see in the university, but it's sort of within what they can do. Like it is a big tower made of sap also. It's kind of weird because they're also made of sap.
That's also them.
But it's what they have on hand. You know?
God. Okay. How many steps is this?
I mean, there's a lot of sap.
There is. Is
I'm
it
actually
four
kind
step?
of imagining it's like they cut
step?
sheets of bark and then use the bark kind of
Okay.
as like
like a
a
shape,
reinforcing,
like a
like a shingle,
Yeah.
and then
sure.
they use the sap around that to give it structure and stuff.
Uh-huh.
So they have a lot of materials on hand. I don't know. I could see it being, I could see it being a 4 or a 6 in terms of like. I don't think a sap tower would be the tallest.
No, and also it is just a tower, right? There's no secret. There's no.
Yeah.
It is a tower that people.
I don't
they
even
will
know
be
that
in.
you can go inside of it.
Okay,
might
so it's like
just-
an obelisk.
Kind of, yeah.
I'm gonna write sap tower.
There might be
and
like
I'll-
a couple rooms at the base, but
Sure.
that's not going to be a
Easy enough
strong
to make.
material. So
Okay.
yeah.
Done. Added. Wait, we've lost. Oh wait, no, I see what I did. It's fine. Okay, there we go. So, how many times should I shuffle this deck?
None.
3.
None.
Wait, no, at least once. What if it's
Twice.
Twice. I'm hearing twice.
What if
I'm
it's in
hearing
order,
3
you know?
times.
You should do it 5 times for every year that we've done.
Good call.
Ooh.
Like it. 1, 2,
It'd be amazing if the fucking
3.
king was the first card after all.
4,
Don't do this.
Truly.
Don't put that evil on me.
5.
I almost
So-
want it to happen.
I've shuffled this 5 times. The state of the board. It is winter. The state of the board is such. A big tree fell into view, a big limb fell into view with some sort of community on it. The Grey Duke's forces still surround the last university. Bugs fly here and there and perform small tasks as a community who has a literal chemical attraction to them rebuild society around this new symbiotic relationship. In the distance, a canyon fills with water, with liquid that erodes life itself. In Alcyon, Galenica, and Lem begin to talk to civilians there, citizens there, while also continuing to discuss the nature of reconfiguration. Velis in the distance is now in communication with you and pending at least a friend, if not an ally. What else is big? The Sapkin are building a tower. You've begun working with a new type of alloy to create better tools. Augury or affective magic has begun to be taught inside of the last university. What else? It's still raining pollen. Is there anything else important in life? The bugs are our friends. The moon lingers in the distance. The Anchor have arrived and are also friends. And are helping to solidify this notion of faith, of a new faith.
Do they get along with the bugs? How does that work?
We'll find out, I guess, right? Well, I have to ask that question. Dre, so for people who don't know, who've not somehow not listened to us play The Quiet Year before, just like every other season, the winter has a full deck of 13 cards. When the King of Winter is drawn, the Frost Shepherds will arrive. What are the Frost Shepherds? We can talk about that after. But we don't know yet. And when they do, the game will end. Dre, draw a card.
No pressure or anything. It just might be the end of our 5 years of work.
It is not the king.
Okay.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Welcome to winter. Oh. Welcome to winter.
I haven't read it. Oh no.
Oh, okay. All the animals and young children are crying and won't stop. Hold a discussion about this in addition to your regular action for this week. A great atrocity is revealed. What is it? Who uncovers it?
There's an or there. I just want to...
Oh, yeah, sorry. It's either the great atrocity or everyone is crying.
Only the kids and animals.
In a bug society?
Yeah, no, that's
a lot of crying.
Scary.
Austin.
That's a lot of chittering. It's a lot of unhappy chitters.
Oh, God.
Are they laughing? No. Crying.
We knew right away that they were crying. We're very attuned to them.
I'm going to go with a great atrocity is...
What is it? Who uncovers it? Whoops, I didn't mean to flip that card over.
So, how much... Did Ephraim's project to go to that other Velis, or to Velis, like, it completed,
It completed.
Right?
Y'all
Yep.
went there. You're now able to go there, is what I will say, if that's connected, yeah.
I think the atrocity that was uncovered is that before coming to kind of this area where our community is, and Galenica started holding there, right? Galenica is they, them?
They, them, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Before Galenica started holding their kind of like open forum sessions about the idea of reconfiguration, they had already reconfigured something as like a test case. And I think maybe that's where this, because that new Velis kind of just like appeared one day, right? It wasn't like we like looked over and saw like, oh yeah, there's this. We just had never looked this far before. It like kind of like rose up out of something, didn't it?
I'm not remembering right, but I'm happy for that to be the case.
The first time we encountered it was Lem heard someone calling up with a bullhorn from the top of a tower.
But yeah, I think, and you all tell me if you, like, to me that feels like an atrocity, because it feels like a very big betrayal of, like, trust in the way that Galenica has presented themselves.
What was the reconfiguration, and who discovers it? Like, what was actually reconfigured?
I think that this, like, Volesian community already existed, but was more isolated and more cut off. And so Galenica, maybe several times, had reconfigured this community over and over as a way to, like, get more comfortable, or, like, feel more, like, okay, yes, this is how this works. Like, these are, if I reconfigure in this way, this is more effective than the other way.
Right, like I have to figure out how this works in this new world.
Yeah.
Can I still do it effectively?
I think there's something...
Magic and everything works differently, so yeah. There's some bugs.
I think there's something that
this.
has to have gone wrong.
For it to
Sure.
Well, yeah, go ahead, try.
Well, I think how they discover it is, it's like one of the, it's kind of like, whenever like media has like a time loop or something, and it's people within the time loops like start to have like, all right, who played the new Mortal Kombat?
The one from
I did not.
This year, last year? Yeah, I did not.
Like
know.
this year, yeah. There is a point in that game, and I guess like spoilers for new Mortal Kombat. There's a point in that game because like the whole point of that game is that like Raiden has done so much like messing with the old Mortal Kombat timeline that the like goddess of time is like, okay, I gotta kill Raiden to stop him from messing up time so much. And what you discover is that actually this battle and this fight has been done thousands upon thousands of times. And Raiden has a moment where he remembers like this breaking point where him and Liu Kang turn on each other and try to kill each other. And it's this really cool cutscene where it's him and Liu Kang like fighting each other over and over in a bunch of different places through a bunch of different timelines. And him like realizing like, no, this is like the turning point. This has happened hundreds of times. And this is where we have to like make something change if this timeline is going to be different. And I think it's people having flashes of like really, really intense and painful deja vu sort of, where it's like, wait, I've done this before, but in a slightly different way. Like this place was different. I was different. These people around me were different.
Right.
And it's just these series of coincidences over and over. And I think it breaks one day because it's probably a lot of people having these thoughts of like, well, this is just me being weird. Like, I didn't sleep well last night.
Maybe the world, maybe there's some sort of weird plant like toxin that's making me have bad dreams.
Everything is weird. I'm probably just going through something. But it's like someone finally confides in someone else that they've been having these feelings and these thoughts, and the other person like goes like, "Oh God, it's not just me," and then that conversation just spreads throughout the whole city.
Is it a situation? I mean, there is like a. Depending on how bad we want this to go, it's like, is there a world in which this one small part of the rhizome had been reconfigured already many times, and they are remembering being part of some sort of action that implicates them, that makes them complicit, or that in which now they would never do this thing. But that they like were soldiers for Galenica. That Galenica actually revived the Grand Tour briefly. That there was like it's actually a mass scale action took place. That in the path, Galenica ends by going like, yeah, this is why I can't do it this way. I've tried it. I've tried to force people to do this. This isn't what they want. Okay, I'll now start wandering the world and hearing what they really do want. That like their initial response was to just start tinkering, was to just start, okay, I'll take one society and build it out and see where we go from there. And that response is something that was like, oh wow, this is not, they all have now done things. It's not just remembering that they have past lives or that they were, that they've been through stuff multiple times and time has been rewound for them. But that the things that they did were not things that they wished they did.
And it was like 3 weeks ago.
Right. Or I don't know. Was it? Was this? Well, it couldn't have been 3 weeks ago because
3 months
Galenica's
ago.
been here.
No, longer.
Right.
Yeah,
whenever
like,
that was, right?
Recently.
Yeah, or this year. It was this year.
Whatever season it was when this...
before Galenica
I'm
arrived.
a florist, and 4 months ago I was a warrior, and a couple months before that I was like some different job or person.
Right. And months before that, I lived in some past Velis, presumably. Like I was just living my life, and then this god came and played around to see how their powers worked. Does that news get to the last university?
I mean, I think so. If we have now, like, we can go there and they can go to us.
Well.
There's probably like, maybe it's like a person who like normally comes to Velis every Thursday to trade.
Right.
Like shows up to the market and like it's nobody's there.
Right.
And they kind of are looking around and then they find like a meeting hall where it's just all these people.
There's something I really like about this that is deeply tragic and is tied to, or recalls for me, a sort of communal suffering, like as an action. And what I want to paint is the picture of like a community coming to terms with a tragic and terrible past together in a way of healing, which is like when you if you read about the ways in which cultures that have been impacted negatively through huge atrocities, it is not like they only grieve alone. They eventually develop a sort of, and this is not, well, there's not one answer for this, but there are ways in which there is a communal grieving process that can literally be wailing together in an arena somewhere, or it can be about creating, small personal rituals at the family scale, or it can be about creating, history curriculums that make students and have students sit with the pain that's been caused and blah, blah, blah. And I kind of like the idea of whoever this early trader is. Maybe it's just to keep characters that we know on screen. It could be someone like Devar, right? Who arrives as like, hey, like I'm the person who writes about this stuff. I'm the person who like understands what all of our stock is. I still have that skill set from being an archivist. Arrives and like has this moment of deep connection. I don't know what this ritual is or if it's even well developed yet, but like the early bits of it. And is just like, what is happening? I mean, the other thing of this is like, they could have already been dealing with this. This might not be a new realization for them so much as it's a new realization for us. Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and I love how you, like, what you were connecting that with, because I feel like, in a way, like, that kind of also extends out on what I was initially trying to touch upon when I talked about, the two people having the conversation and the person,
right,
like, saying, like, oh, gosh, it's not just you. I mean, a lot of times in my, like, work
right,
if I'm working with like a family or a couple or something, like one of the most like breakthrough moments is when a person, like, because I think a lot of times we all have these thoughts where it's like something somebody said or did really hurt me, but then our kind of initial pushback against that is like, but should I take this so personally? Like, this is really, like, this is me overreacting, this is me being petty, this is me being irrational, whatever. But then that doesn't like address the hurt or make that hurt go away.
Right.
And so there's something powerful when people can like stop putting labels on their hurt as to whether their hurt is justified or irrational, right, or whatever, and just like speak about it and come together and speak about it with other people.
What if it's a thing where it's like Devar arrives and everyone is wearing one color or is wearing a badge or a shawl or something, and is like, what's up? What's going on? And what he finds out is that they are in like the 12 days of mourning or something. And it's like, well, wait, what are we? It's like, well, for 12 weeks, Galenica did this to us. Every week was a new reconfiguration. And so once a year, or maybe not once a year, maybe it's not 12 days, maybe it's 5 days, maybe it's like one work week, and it's like for 5 weeks this happened right after the second spring arrived. And so we, once a month we take 5 days to work through this. Who even knows how they experience time, right?
Yeah.
And Devar is like, word?
But no, I do love that, because I think it is both the atrocity, but then it is that essence of a community grieving through that together.
Yeah. They don't want reconfiguration to happen. Meanwhile, clocks tick. Census is at 3. Throndir and Redjack only needs one more after this one. Sap Tower continues to grow. Did we miss Sap Tower last time, or was there no Sap Tower? Was there no...
Sap Towers started last time.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was
Okay,
that
right,
was
right, right.
Janine's
Yeah.
turn
Right.
last time. Yeah.
And, well-timed, Lem and Galenica come to a close. What's this look like?
Oh boy, I didn't even realize that.
Oh, yeah. And I guess I don't know if Lem knows this news. Or do you find this out? Like, what's this?
Which is most interesting?
It's your scene. I'm interested in both. I can do
Yeah,
either.
I could do either. I like. Is this a picture of Galenica at a democracy stand?
Sure, right?
down
In an
down here?
open-
No. This
Where?
actual picture.
Oh, no, that's just Galenica standing there. That thing behind them is the gondola.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, is it a confrontation about this? Is it Lem finding out after?
I wonder if it's like a kind of like a. You know how they say when you're interviewing people, don't ask questions you don't know the answer to?
Yeah.
I wonder if Lem says, when was the last time you reconfigured something large?
How large?
A town, a city?
I think that they just say plainly, yeah, they are just like weeks before I arrived.
Yes.
What would you like to know?
Did you ask them?
I asked them many things. I asked them how they felt. I asked them what they wished they were. And I reconfigured.
Do you think their answers would have changed if you told them that you were going to reconfigure them?
I did after the first and the third and the fifth, and their answers did change. This was part of my early experience trying to work out what was possible.
Lem just like nods. I think we're sitting in like a what's Alcyon culture like now? Are we in
I
like
think
a bar?
one
or
of the big real things for them is it's very standing as a culture. They don't have a lot of rocks anymore to build like big heavy furniture for their very heavy bodies to sit on. There's a lot of walking. There's a lot of standing.
Oh, is the vibe when you've arrived late to a party or at a bar that's full and you find a spot, but it's just like leaning against a thing?
Mm-hmm.
I think like Lem writes something in his notebook and looks up and says, "What did you learn?"
About reconfiguration, I learned that a great deal is possible. I have, as far as I can tell, a great flexibility in how the gifts I was given by people can be applied.
That is not necessarily a mandate.
I have never worked on mandate. I have worked on influence, preference. I have extended the will of those who pray to me when their praise seem reasonable or correct.
What is correct?
What is correct? It is what you arrive at after judgment and experience, after input, after study, after travel, and after time.
What do you think the citizens of Velis under the tree have arrived at?
Their own vision of what is correct, as all do. Rarely the same.
Have you spoken to them recently?
No, the world is large and there are many to speak with.
I'm sure.
I've spent my time at Velis for now. Velis under the tree.
If you put it back to how it was. What does that do to the heat in the dark?
This is one of the many things I continue to study. I believe that if I do it well, it will tie the world to me, as it did once to good Samol. Unlike Samol, I was not conjured by nothing. I am, as I said, an extension of will. Perhaps as long as there is will, there will be the world. The new world.
Let's say you do it, and we wake up in the morning together, the day you're going to do it, and you've made your decision. What does that look like for me, or for Helivaral, or for Devar?
It depends on where I start. They wouldn't have that emotion in their voice. They say, it depends on where I start.
Go on.
If I begin far away, you will see it over one of the horizons. Like clouds of stuff, of rock, of soil, of root, of sky. And soon it will blend with what is here, and space will reorganize. I do not think I can remove these roots, but I can incorporate them. I can fill in gaps. I can slide them from a clump, a tumorous collection of nerves, into a skeleton, into a body, and around it a surface. Not the strange ice pick shape of Samel. Something round, where travel is simpler. This is one of the wills I've heard. I believe I will have space for those who wish to remain here. And above, there will be plenty. One sun. But enough. If I begin it above you, it will be as if you were at the foot of Samathi's throne during eruption. A blossom, an explosion of creativity, of stuff thrown into the sky. You will see the world new above, aside, and below. The ground will rise, and seas will fill in the gaps.
Why would you have us experience this trauma again?
You would have me wait for a new generation, one who has not already felt it, one who would be surprised.
I don't want you to wait. I don't want you to do it at all.
Why is this?